Chapter 7. Cathy remained at Thrushcross Grange for 5 weeks, until Christmas. By then, her ankle had healed completely, and her manners had undergone a remarkable transformation. The mistress of the house visited us frequently during this period, initiating her reform by boosting her self-esteem with elegant clothes and compliments, which Cathy eagerly accepted. Thus, instead of the untamed, hatless little girl who used to burst into the house and hug us breathless, there arrived a poised young lady on a sleek black pony. Her brown curls cascaded from beneath a feathered hat, and she wore a long-ass tailored riding habit that required both hands to lift as she gracefully dismounted. Hindley helped her down, exclaiming with delight, "Cathy, you've become a true beauty. I barely recognize you. You look like a laddie now. Isabella Linton doesn't compare, does she, Francis?" "Isabella lacks her natural charm," his wife replied. "But Cathy must be careful not to revert to her wild ways here. Ellen, assist Miss Catherine with her things. Wait, dear. Don't mess up your curls. Let me untie your hat." I removed her riding habit, revealing a grand plaid silk dress, white trousers, and polished shoes. Her eyes sparkled with joy as the dogs bounded up to greet her. Yet she hesitated to touch them, wary of their affection disturbing her splendid attire. She kissed me softly. I was covered in flour from making the Christmas cake, so a hug was out of the question. Then she glanced around for Heathcliff. Mr. and Mrs. Earnshaw watched their meeting with anxious eyes, hoping it might give them some insight into whether they could succeed in separating the two friends. At first, Heathcliff was hard to find. If he had been neglected and indifferent before Catherine left, he was 10 times more so now. I was the only one who bothered to call him a dirty boy and tell him to wash once a week. Children his age rarely find joy in soap and water. His clothes were worn from 3 months of mud and dust. His thick hair was uncombed, and his face and hands were grimy. It was no wonder he hid behind the settle when such a bright, graceful girl entered, instead of the rough counterpart he expected. "Is Heathcliff not here?" she asked, pulling off her gloves to reveal fingers made pale from idleness and staying indoors. "Heathcliff, you can come out now," called Mr. Hindley, relishing his discomfort, and pleased to see what a scruffy young scoundrel he would have to present himself as. "You can come and welcome Miss Catherine, like the other servants." Kitty, spotting her friend hidden away, rushed over to embrace him. She showered his cheek with 7 or 8 quick kisses, then pulled back, laughing. "Why, you look so dark and grumpy, and so strange and stern." "But that's because I'm used to Edgar and Isabella Linton. Well, Heathcliff, have you forgotten me?" Her question wasn't without cause, as shame and pride cast a heavy shadow over his face, keeping him still. "Shake hands, Heathcliff," Mr. Earnshaw said with a touch of condescension. "Just this once, it's allowed." "I won't," the boy finally spoke, his voice finding strength. "I won't stand to be mocked. I won't tolerate it." He was about to break free from the group, but Miss Cathy caught him again. "I didn't mean to laugh at you," she said. "I couldn't help it. Heathcliff, at least shake hands. Why are you sulking?" "It was just that you looked unusual. If you wash your face and brush your hair, it'll be fine. But you're so dirty." She looked with concern at the dark fingers she held, and then at her dress, worried it hadn't improved from their contact. "You didn't have to touch me," he snapped, following her gaze and yanking his hand away. "I'll be as filthy as I want it, and I like it that way. I choose to be dirty." With that declaration, he charged out of the room head first, leaving the master and mistress laughing, while Catherine was left bewildered, unable to grasp why her words had triggered such display of anger. After tending to the newcomer and placing my cakes in the oven, I set about making the house and kitchen warm and inviting with roaring fires, perfect for Christmas Eve. I planned to entertain myself by singing carols alone, ignoring Joseph's insistence that my cheerful tunes were akin to sinful songs. He had retreated to his room for private prayer while Mr. and Mrs. Earnshaw were busy delighting Missy with various colourful trinkets bought for her to give to the little Lintons, as a token of gratitude for their kindness. They had invited the Lintons to spend the next day at Wuthering Heights, and the invitation was accepted, with the one condition: Mrs. Linton requested that her children be kept away from the naughty, swearing boy. In these circumstances, I found myself alone. I inhaled the rich aroma of warming spices and admired the gleaming kitchenware, the clock adorned with holly, and the silver mugs lined up on a tray, ready to be filled with mulled ale for supper. Most of all, I took pride in the spotless cleanliness of my particular charge, the scrubbed and well-swept floor. I silently praised each detail, then recalled how old Earnshaw used to enter, when everything was in order, call me a good lass, and slip a shilling into my hand as a Christmas gift. This memory led me to think of his affection for Heathcliff, and his fear that the boy might be neglected after his death. Naturally, my thoughts turned to Heathcliff's current plight, and my singing gave way to tears. It soon dawned on me that it would be more sensible to try to mend some of his grievances rather than weep over them. So I got up and went out into the courtyard to find him. He wasn't far. I discovered him in the stable, tending to the shiny coat of the new pony and feeding the other animals, as was his habit. "Hurry up, Heathcliff!" I called out. "The kitchen is so cozy, and Joseph is upstairs. Come quickly and let me spruce you up before Miss Cathy comes out. Then you can both sit by the hearth and chat away until bedtime." He continued with his work, not even glancing in my direction. "Are you coming?" I pressed. "There's a little cake for each of you. Almost enough. You'll need a good half-hour to get ready." I waited for 5 minutes, but when he didn't respond, I left him there. Catherine dined with her brother and sister-in-law, while Joseph and I shared a rather unfriendly meal filled with reprimands from him and cheekiness from me. Heathcliff's cake and cheese stayed untouched on the table all night, left for the fairies. He worked until 9 o'clock, then silently and sullenly retreated to his room. Cathy stayed up late, busy organizing for the arrival of her new friends. She popped into the kitchen once to check on her old friend, but he was already gone. She only paused to ask what was wrong with him before returning to her tasks. In the morning, he woke early. It was a holiday, so he took his foul mood out to the moors, not returning until the family had left for church. The time alone, fasting and reflecting, seemed to have improved his disposition. He lingered near me for a bit, and after mustering his resolve, he suddenly declared, "Nellie, help me clean up. I'm going to turn over a new leaf." "About time, Heathcliff," I replied. "You've upset Catherine. I bet she's regretting coming back home. It seems like you resent her because she gets more attention than you." The idea of being jealous of Catherine was beyond him, but he understood perfectly well the idea of having upset her. "Did she say she was upset?" he asked, looking quite serious. "She cried when I told her you had left again this morning." "Well, I cried last night," he responded, "and I had more reason to cry than she did." "Yes, you had the reason of going to bed with a proud heart and an empty stomach," I said. "Prideful people create their own sorrows. But if you're ashamed of your sensitivity, you must apologize when she returns. You should go up to her, offer a kiss, and say what you need to say. Just make sure you mean it. And don't act like her fancy clothes have turned her into a stranger. And now, though I have dinner to prepare, I will take a moment to set you up so that Edgar Linton, who looks like a mere doll next to you, and indeed he does. You're younger, yet I bet you're taller and twice as broad across the shoulders. You could knock him down in an instant. Don't you feel that you could?" Heathcliff's face lit up briefly, then clouded over again, and he sighed. "But, Nellie, even if I knocked him down 20 times, it wouldn't make him any less handsome, or me any more so. I wish I had light hair and fair skin, dressed as well as he does, behaved as he does, and had a chance of being as wealthy as he will be." "And cried for his mother at every turn," I added, "and trembled if a country lad raised a fist at him and stayed indoors all day because of a little rain. Oh, Heathcliff, you're showing a poor spirit. Come to the mirror, and I'll show you what you should wish for. Do you see those 2 lines between your eyes? And those thick brows that, instead of arching, dip in the middle? And those 2 dark eyes, so deeply set, that never open boldly, but lurk beneath, like devil's spies? Wish to smooth away the sullen wrinkles, to lift your lids openly, and transform those fiends into confident, innocent angels, suspecting nothing, doubting nothing, and always seeing friends where there might be foes. Don't adopt the expression of a vicious dog that seems to know it deserves the kicks it gets, yet hates the world, as well as the one who kicks it, for its suffering. In other words, I must wish for Edgar Linton's great blue eyes and smooth forehead," he replied. "I do, and that won't help me win them over." "A kind heart will make you appealing, my boy," I pressed on, "even if you were as dark as night. And a cruel one will turn the fairest face into something worse than ugly. Now that we're done with washing, combing, and sulking, don't you think you're rather handsome?" "I certainly do. You're fit to be a prince in disguise. Who knows? Maybe your father was the Emperor of China, and your mother an Indian queen, each wealthy enough to buy Wuthering Heights and Thrushcross Grange with just a week's income. Perhaps you were kidnapped by wicked sailors and brought to England. If I were you, I'd entertain grand ideas about my origins. Such thoughts would give me the courage and dignity to withstand the oppressions of a mere farmer. I rambled on, and Heathcliff's frown gradually faded, replaced by a more pleasant expression, when suddenly our conversation was interrupted by a rumbling sound approaching from the road and entering the courtyard. He dashed to the window, and I to the door, just in time to see the two Lintons step out of their family carriage, bundled in cloaks and furs, and the Earnshaws dismount from their horses. They often rode to church in winter. Catherine took each child by the hand and brought them inside, setting them before the fire, which quickly brought colour back to their pale faces. I encouraged my companion to hurry and show his good-natured side, and he eagerly complied. But as fate would have it, just as he opened the door from the kitchen on one side, Hindley opened it on the other. They met, and the master, annoyed by his clean and cheerful demeanour, or perhaps driven by a promise to Mrs. Linton, shoved him back with a sudden push, ordering Joseph to keep him out of the room, send him to the attic until dinner is done, leave him alone with the food for a minute, and he'll be sticking his fingers in the tarts and swiping the fruit. "No, sir," I couldn't help but reply. "He won't touch a thing. Not him. And surely he deserves his share of the treats, just like the rest of us." "He'll get a share of my fist if I catch him downstairs before dark," Hindley shouted. "Get out, you scoundrel! What? Trying to play the dandy, are you? Just wait until I get my hands on those fancy locks. I'll make them longer, all right." "They're long enough as it is," remarked Master Linton, peeking from the doorway. "I'm surprised they don't give him a headache. It's like a colt's mane hanging over his eyes." He said this without any intention to offend, but Heathcliff's fiery nature couldn't tolerate even the hint of insolence from someone he already seemed to despise as a rival. He grabbed a tureen of hot applesauce, the first thing within reach, and hurled it at the speaker's face and neck, prompting a wail that brought Isabella and Catherine rushing to the scene. Mr. Earnshaw swiftly grabbed the offender and took him to his room, where he likely delivered a harsh lesson to quell his anger as he returned, looking flushed and out of breath. I picked up the dishcloth and, with a touch of malice, scrubbed Edgar's nose and mouth, insisting it served him right for interfering. His sister began to cry, wanting to go home, while Cathy stood nearby, bewildered and embarrassed for everyone. "You shouldn't have spoken to him," she scolded Master Linton. "He was in a foul mood, and now you've ruined your visit. He'll be punished, and I hate it when he's punished. I can't even eat my dinner. Why did you talk to him, Edgar?" "I didn't," the boy sobbed, pulling away from me and finishing the clean-up with his handkerchief. "I promised Mother I wouldn't say a word to him, and I didn't." "Well, stop crying," Catherine replied with disdain. "You're not hurt. Don't cause more trouble. My brother is coming. Be quiet." "Hush, Isabella. Has anyone hurt you?" "Come on, children. Take your seats," Hindley exclaimed as he entered, bustling about. "That brute of a boy has given me quite a warm-up. Next time, Master Edgar, handle it yourself. It'll sharpen your appetite." The little group quickly regained their composure at the sight of the inviting feast. They were hungry after their ride and easily comforted, as no real harm had come to them. Mr. Earnshaw served generous portions, and the mistress kept the mood light with her lively chatter. I stood behind her chair, troubled to see Catherine, with dry eyes and an indifferent demeanour, begin to carve the wing of a goose before her. What an unfeeling child, I thought. How easily she dismisses her old playmates' troubles. I never imagined she could be so selfish. She lifted a bite to her lips, then set it down again. Her cheeks flushed and tears spilled over them. She let her fork fall to the floor and quickly ducked under the tablecloth to hide her emotions. I didn't think her unfeeling for long. I realized she was tormented all day, longing for a chance to be alone or to visit Heathcliff, who had been locked up by the master, as I found out when I tried to sneak him some food. That evening, we had a dance. Cathy played it for his release, as Isabella Linton had no partner. Her pleas were in vain, and I was assigned to fill the gap. We banished all traces of gloom. In the thrill of the festivities, our joy amplified by the arrival of the Gimmerton Band. 15 members strong, a trumpet, a trombone, clarinets, bassoons, French horns, and a bass viol, along with singers. They make their rounds to all the respectable homes, collecting contributions each Christmas, and we considered it a top-notch delight to hear them. After they performed the traditional carols, we had them play songs and glees. Mrs. Earnshaw adored the music, and they indulged us generously. Catherine loved it too, but she claimed it sounded best from the top of the steps. So she ventured up in the dark, and I followed. They closed the house door below, oblivious to our absence, as it was bustling with people. She didn't linger at the head of the stairs, but climbed further, to the attic where Heathcliff was confined, and called out to him. He stubbornly refused to respond at first, but she persisted and eventually coaxed him into speaking with her through the boards. I let them converse undisturbed until I thought the songs were about to end and the singers would seek refreshments. Then I climbed up the ladder to alert her. Instead of finding her outside, I heard her voice inside. The little rascal had slipped through one garret skylight, across the roof, into the skylight of the other, and it took considerable effort to coax her back out. When she finally emerged, Heathcliff came with her, and she insisted I take him into the kitchen, as my fellow servant had gone to a neighbour's to escape the sound of our devil's psalmody, as he liked to call it. I told them I had no intention of encouraging their antics, but since the prisoner hadn't eaten since yesterday's dinner, I decided to overlook his trickery towards Mr. Hindley. Just this once. He came down, and I set a stool by the fire for him, offering a spread of good food. Yet he was unwell and could eat a very little, and my efforts to engage him were futile. He rested his elbows on his knees, chin in his hands, lost in silent contemplation. When I asked what he was pondering, he replied solemnly, "I'm figuring out how to repay Hindley. I don't mind how long it takes, as long as I can do it eventually. I just hope he doesn't die before I do." "For shame, Heathcliff," I exclaimed. "It's God's place to punish wickedness. We should learn to forgive." "No, God won't get the satisfaction that I will," he retorted. "I just wish I knew the best way. Leave me be, and I'll work it out. Thinking about it takes away my pain." But, Mr. Lockwood, I realize these stories may not entertain you. I'm frustrated at the thought of rambling on like this while your gruel sits cold and you're ready for bed. I could have summed up Heathcliff's story in just a few words. Breaking off her own monologue, the housekeeper stood up to put away her sewing. but I was rooted by the fire, far from feeling sleepy. "Please, Mrs. Dean," I urged, "stay a bit longer. You've paced the story perfectly. That's exactly how I like it. You must finish it in the same manner. I'm intrigued by every character you've mentioned, to varying degrees." "The clock is about to strike 11, sir." "No matter. I'm not used to turning in early. 1 or 2 in the morning is early enough for someone who sleeps until 10. You shouldn't sleep until 10. The best part of the morning is long gone by then. If someone hasn't completed half the day's work by 10, they risk leaving the rest undone." "Even so, Mrs. Dean, please sit back down, because tomorrow I plan to extend the night well into the afternoon. I predict I'm in for a stubborn cold, at the very least." "I hope not, sir." "Well, let me skip ahead about 3 years. During that time, Mrs. Earnshaw at Gokim—" "No, no, I won't allow it. Are you familiar with the kind of mindset where, if you're sitting alone and the cat is grooming its kitten on the rug in front of you, you watch so closely that if the cat misses an ear, it genuinely irritates you? I'd call that a terribly lazy mood." "Quite the opposite. It's an annoyingly active one. That's where I am right now. So please, continue in detail." "I've noticed that people here gain a certain significance over city dwellers. Much like a spider in a dungeon holds more intrigues than one in a cottage, to those who observe them. Yet, this increased allure isn't solely due to the observer's perspective. They truly live more earnestly, more within themselves, and less on the surface, less in the realm of change and trivial externalities. I could almost imagine a genuine love for life here, which is surprising, as I've always doubted any love lasting a year. One way of living is like giving a hungry man a single dish to focus all his appetite on and truly savor. The other is like presenting him with a table spread by the French chefs. He might enjoy the whole experience, but each part becomes just a fleeting taste in his memory." "Oh, we're just like anyone else once you get to know us," Mrs. Dean remarked, a bit perplexed by my comment. "Forgive me," I replied, "but you, my dear friend, are a clear exception to that rule. Aside from a few minor local quirks, you don't exhibit the traits I typically associate with your social class. It's evident you've engaged in far more contemplation than most in your position. You've had to develop your mind due to a lack of frivolous distractions." Mrs. Dean chuckled. "I do consider myself a sensible, level-headed person," she said. "Not just because I've lived among these hills, seeing the same faces and routines year after year. I've been through tough times that have taught me a thing or two. And I've read more than you might guess. Mr. Lockwood, there's hardly a book in this library I haven't opened and learned something from, except maybe those in Greek, Latin, and French. I can at least tell them apart, which is quite an achievement for a poor man's daughter. But if I'm to continue my tale in true gossip style, I should proceed without skipping ahead. So instead of jumping 3 years, let's move to the next summer, the summer of 1778, nearly 23 years ago.